Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 30 of Cute Little Love Letters, and this one is titled Dark Past. You watched your dad switch apps to the camera app and start clicking away, and you chuckled when his pictures kept coming out too dark. Dad, you might need to wait until tomorrow when the sun comes up, you said gently. You could use flash on the camera, but it might not look super good if you do it like that. Oh, I see, he says. He turned his phone off. Okay, tomorrow. You smiled and stood up. Shall we go? He asked with a smile. Yes, you said, and started to follow him, but then remembered that you had a burning question to ask him and made a small noise to get his attention. Dad? You asked. Yes, he asked back over his shoulder as he kept walking. Do you know anything about citrine fairies? You asked. Your dad froze on the spot and you had to stop so that you wouldn't walk into the back of him. He didn't speak. Dad? You asked gently when he just remained frozen in place. Yes, he said after a while, and you hesitated. Are we citrine fairies? You then asked. How do you know about citrine fairies? He asked, still with his back to you. Who told you? Oh, I was doing research in the library for my assignment, and I found a book on the history of the Fae folk, and there was a section on different nationalities of fairy. The Lyri, the Tassi, and the citrine, you said. When I was reading the characteristics of each, I felt like I fit more into the citrine, but I couldn't be sure. Your dad said. I also read about citrine royal family, you offered, and your dad jumped slightly. There was a long pause. Dad? You asked. Are we... Yin, there's something I need to tell you. He cut in, his voice sounding very serious and sad. Do you mind if we sit down? There's a lot to unpack. You nodded, feeling a sudden weight resting on your shoulders. Your dad turned to face you, but he kept his eyes downcast. He wouldn't look you in the eye no matter how much you tried to catch it. Back down to the end of the greenhouse you walked, quietly, feeling like there was going to be a rather large reveal here. Your dad sat down, and you sat down beside him, feeling a sadness radiating from him that you'd never felt before. Dad? You asked, looking at his dejected side profile. Yin, first, he said sadly. I want to ask for your forgiveness. My forgiveness? You asked with surprise and confusion. Well, why would you need my forgiveness? I've told you untruths, he said sadly. I told them to protect you, not thinking about the consequences later on, or that you may find out the truth. But I never meant to hurt you by withholding the truth. It was to protect you, but also to save my own dignity, because I can't look at my own self in the mirror now after what I've done. The way he said all of this made you want to cry. What did you do, Dad? You asked in a numb voice. He let out a large, frustrated sigh and scrunched his nose up. It's true that you and I are from the royal bloodline, he admitted, but I messed up, and now we can never go back, and have been banished. No one drove me out. I left on my own, but I can't show my face again after deliberately going against royal protocol. What happened, Dad? You asked gently. Just so you know, I'll always love you, and we'll always be together as a family. You have Mum and I, and nothing will change that, you said, trying to encourage and comfort him with your words. It all boils down to me not having courage, and seeking for it in the wrong places and getting tricked. He sighed. I knew better, but I still went with it. Who tricked you? You asked him. Can you tell me the story? He sighed and you waited. I was to be the future king of our kind, he said sadly. It was a good life. It was a fulfilling life, but the fear of being the one to stand above all and direct our nation gripped me to the core. I begged for courage from the gods. I did all I could to gain courage, but never felt like I had enough. And so one day, I entered the forest and I walked deep to find someone I shouldn't have. I knew not to trust them, but I was desperate, he admitted sadly. Who? You asked. A witch, he admitted. I knew they were Fox Fury, as I'd been told by others. Fox Fury, you said with mortified surprise. They're dark fae. I know, your dad said with his nose scrunched in frustration. I know. I knew I wasn't supposed to go, but I thought that maybe they might show pity on me and help me. And did the witch make you eat the mushroom? You asked with fear in your voice. You really have done your research, your dad said with a little pride at how much you knew. No, she didn't. But she toyed with me. She made me do heinous crimes, with the promise that she would grant me courage. But in the end, she just made me have the ability to hold human form, which, as you know, Citrine can marry humans except for if you're royalty. She mocked me. He sighed with frustration. But it's all my fault. I did this. I did it willingly, but in the end my sins found me. Dad, you said sadly, placing a hand on his arm. Please, I know you wouldn't have done these things otherwise. Yin, my beloved, I killed a Tassie, your dad said sadly, tears welling in his eyes. I took their life, while the Fox Fury watched and laughed. You paled. Dad, does that mean that you can't go back to the village where you were born? You asked. He nodded. I can never go back. If I do, I stand trial. Most possibly by my brother, who's likely taken the throne in my absence. He said sadly. Yin, I'm so sorry. Dad, it's okay, you said with a worried expression on your face. Promise me that you'll heed my warning. Never look for what you desire from anybody but yourself. Courage, faith, patience, all of the virtues are within you. You need not seek outside to gain these. I've learned this the hard way, but still to this day I lack courage. But you can gain it. Be stronger than me. Grow. Stand tall. Never waver in your resolve. You are the descendant of a Citrine royalty, and never forget that, he said, and you felt a power surge from within him. It was infectious, and you sat there a little straighter and looked him in the eye. Okay, you said firmly. I'll stand tall. I'll follow my heart. Good girl, your dad said as he reached out and pulled you in for a big hug. I still love you, Dad, you said gently, and you felt his grip on you tighten, and his body start to shake as silent sobs gripped him. This had been a long time coming for him, and he was glad that he finally admitted the truth. But now the truth was with you too, and it was a lot to unpack. I don't even know what to do with this information. How do I put this into my assignment? You screamed internally. But also, I swear I remember my grandma's face. The yellow in her house. You decided to leave that on the back burner though, and thought also to talk to the teacher about your assignment later too. For now you just needed to be with your family. That night was all spent together, talking and sipping tea, and by the end of the night you felt mildly better, but sleep didn't find you as easily as it usually did. Most of that night was spent sitting on your windowsill, looking out at the large moon overhead and wondering about the past and the future. The next morning you were up early, tired but up, and had a quick breakfast before heading off to Mr. Sadatori's flower shop. Ian, he greeted you brightly with heavy bags under his eyes. How are you? How is school? He asked with a nervous twitch. It's going really well, sir, you said with a polite smile. How is the shop faring? Oh, it's alive. It's alive and well. All sentient. Sensational, he said nervously, while eyeing the fern plant nearby. You felt sorry for him and gave him a little sympathetic smile. Please take care of yourself, you said gently. I'll go and see Olix now. Are they out the back? You asked. Yes, he nodded with an eye twitch. Please go and help them. See what needs to be done. Okay, you said with another small smile as you walked out the back. Well, that was a little bit of a heavy chapter. I hope everyone's okay. We'll see what Yin does with this information. We'll stay tuned for tomorrow, chapter 31. See you there.